The company 8-Bit Mods changed the way we think about memory cards with the introduction of the MemCard Pro for the original PlayStation back in 2021. Now, just 2 years later, they have come back with another entry into their line of smart memory cards with the release of the MemCard Pro GC for the Nintendo Gamecube. So with a lot to live up to given their established track record with the original MemCard Pro, how will this new one for the Gamecube stack up? Well, let's find out. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Tito and welcome to another episode of Retro Renew. Today I have the opportunity to give you an early and up-close personal look at 8-Bit Mod's newest product, the MemCard Pro GC, the last memory card you'll ever need for the Nintendo Gamecube. Now this is a follow-up to their incredible MemCard Pro for the original PlayStation, and built on that existing foundation to bring you all that amazing capability to the Nintendo Gamecube. Now, for those of you who don't know, in 2021, 8-Bit Mods released the original MemCard Pro for the PS1. This is a super memory card that came equipped with a powerful ESP32 processor with built-in Wi-Fi, a fancy OLED display, and gave you near endless storage for all your game saves by utilizing microSD cards, all contained in a sleek package. It also integrated seamlessly with the X-Station optical drive emulator if you had that installed in your console, by auto-loading game-specific virtual memory cards depending on the game you have selected. Truly revolutionary stuff. Now, of course, the focus of this video is not the original MemCard Pro, but rather their follow-up for the Gamecube. It has a lot of the same features, but also brings a few new tricks to the table. Anyway, that's enough blabbering. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the MemCard Pro GC. Let's start things off by taking a look under the hood. Powering the MemCard Pro GC, or MPC GC, is the very capable dual-core 240MHz ESP32 S3 processor. It has lower power consumption and runs cooler than previous iterations. Additionally, the ESP32 S3 comes with built-in Wi-Fi, which enables some really cool functionality that we'll get into in just a moment. Here, you can see the tiny FPGA which is used to seamlessly interface the MemCard Pro with the Gamecube console. It comes with 6,000 logic elements, which is more than enough headroom to add new capability in the future. Now, one of the more standout hardware items is the new, larger OLED display. One of the great things about the original MCP was its OLED screen, which displayed some useful information like which virtual card and channel you have selected. With the MCP GC, the display grew to a 128 by 64 pixel resolution. This allows for more information to be displayed simultaneously, such as which VMC is mounted, what game is playing if using Swiss, Wi-Fi connectivity status, as well as other cool items like this animated Gamecube logo. And because the MCP-GC utilizes a new ESP32 S3 processor, the OLED can support smoother animations and text scrolling. The MCP-GC is housed in a beautiful injection molded shell which was designed by Greg of Laser Bear Industries. It'll initially come in two flavors, Frost White and Smoke Black. With all the colors available for the original MemCard Pro, I'm sure we'll see more colors come to the Gamecube version soon enough. And around the front of the unit, we have the microSD card slot, which can support up to 2TB cards, more than you'll ever need. And lastly, something that we haven't seen before, a micro USB port for use with externally powered hard drives as well as flash drives. Again, adding the ability to use a near infinite amount of storage. Now, before we dive into the features, we need to keep in mind that some of the software I'm showcasing is still being worked on, and this does not represent the final retail version. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into what this thing is capable of. Because the card is Wi-Fi enabled, we have access to the web UI. If you've used the PlayStation MCP, then you'll be familiar with this feature. Essentially, you can remotely access all your save files from your PC or mobile device that's on the same network as the MCP-GC. When remotely logged into the MemCard Pro, you can change settings as well as access the SD card browser. Under the settings menu, you can toggle the Wi-Fi on and off, enable FTP server mode, and set whether it loads the last VMC used upon booting up the console. Also, using this slider, you can change the default memory card size whenever a new VMC is created. You can choose between 59, 251, 507, and 1019 blocks. Additionally, you can adjust the display mode, which basically tells the MCP to either dim or turn off the display when it's idle. And here, you can also change the brightness of the OLED display. But the most interesting thing, I think, is the ability to update the firmware over the air. This is incredibly convenient, and I'm glad that I don't have to remove the SD card every time an update is available. Now, taking a look at the SD card browser, you can see which VMC is currently mounted up here, as well as all the other cards you have loaded onto the MCP GC. By clicking on the 3 dots next to a memory card, you're presented with a small menu. Here you can do several things. The first is Fetch Name from Database. This will automatically name the memory card based on the game that it was made for. The next option allows you to download the virtual memory card to your computer, which is great for posterity and peace of mind. It's really convenient that you can do this directly on the web UI and don't have to bother with removing the SD card and then transferring the files manually. The third option allows you to mount the VMC. When you select it, you'll see it load on the OLED display. And lastly, you can edit the name of the VMC as well as delete it. All very useful features that allow you to manage all your virtual memory cards without the need of removing the SD card. Now, going back to the settings, I do want to briefly discuss the FTP server function. When toggled on, you can FTP into the memory card using a FTP client to manage the SD card remotely from a PC in a more traditional folder-like structure. This again is just another option we have to manage our save data, and who doesn't like options? Now, the next feature we're going to talk about, I think, is really awesome. The MCP GC integrates with Swiss, allowing for some really neat functionality. It pretty much works in the same way as the original MCP with the XStation ODE. Essentially, when you load a game through Swiss, if a VMC does not currently exist for that game, it will automatically create one for you, which is extremely convenient. Additionally, if you already have a VMC for that game, it will use the Game ID feature to automatically select the VMC that corresponds to the game you loaded through Swiss. Just make sure you are using the latest version of Swiss, because if you don't, you won't be able to use this functionality. Now, a really cool feature that we may see in a future firmware update is what is called diskless mode. Essentially, since the MCP GC is Wi-Fi enabled, we may see a feature that allows for automatic cloud backups of your save data, or backups to compatible network-attached storage devices such as RetroNAS. This means that your saves are not only stored locally on the MemCard Pro itself, but also backed up onto another device. You could also potentially forgo storing anything on the SD card at all and just have everything save and be stored remotely in the cloud. This is truly bringing some crazy modern features to these retro consoles. Anyway, now that we've reviewed some of the great features this device has to offer, let's take a look at just how easy it is to set up. So when you first get your MCP GC, you'll need to conduct an initial setup. You'll need to supply your own microSD card with any capacity between 1 GB and 2 TB, which will give you a near endless amount of save storage. Just for reference, you'll be able to create 2048 59-block memory cards per 1 GB of storage. So this here is a 16 GB card, meaning I can create 32,768 individual virtual memory cards, which is more than I'll ever need, but this was the smallest card I could find. So the first thing we need to do is insert the card into the computer and format it using the SD card memory formatter application, which I'll have linked in the video description. Both FAT32 and exFAT are acceptable file systems. Next, you'll need to grab the latest firmware. While it's not available as of the making of this video, I will post a link to where you can download it once it's been published. For now, I have the beta version of the software saved on my desktop. All you need to do is extract the contents of the zip file to the root of the SD card. The extracted zip will contain a MCU and FPGA bin file along with an OS folder. Now, eject the SD card and then place it into the MCP GC and then turn on the console. It will begin to load the latest firmware. Just wait a few moments, and then when it's done, you're ready to start saving games. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, if you are using Swiss, you'll need to be running the latest version in order to take advantage of all the features like auto-loading virtual cards and Game ID. I'm running version 0.6 Rev 1400. Okay, the next thing we'll want to set up is Wi-Fi, which is actually really easy to do. So with the MCP inserted in the console, turn it on. You'll see an IP address flash on screen. Have a pen and paper handy and jot it down. Then, with a smartphone or computer, search for wireless networks. You should see one called MemCard Pro, followed by some numbers and letters. Select it, and then enter the password MCPadmin when prompted. Once connected, open a browser window, and then enter the IP address 192.168.4.1 into the URL bar, and it should navigate you to the Wi-Fi setup wizard. Just go ahead and follow the on-screen instructions, find your network, and then enter your credentials. The MCP GC should then reset once setup is complete and should now automatically connect to your network. Next, to access the web UI, all you need to do is enter the IP address that you wrote down into the URL bar of any mobile device or PC, and you're in. Okay, now that the MCP GC is all set up, let me show you how to transfer over your save files from your existing memory cards. It's actually really simple. All you need to do is plug in the MCP GC into slot A or B, and your other card with the save files on it into the other slot. Then enter the Gamecube main menu screen and press down to get to the memory card menu. From here, it's as simple as copying the files over as you normally would. Now to take things a step further, I like to actually set up a brand new dedicated virtual memory card that is appropriately tagged with the correct name. Doing this with Swiss is the easiest way because all you need to do is launch the game and a virtual memory card is automatically created. Then all you need to do is make sure that that VMC is mounted and then transfer over your old save files for that game. This process does take a bit longer, but it ensures that all of your VMCs are appropriately labeled and it will keep you nice and organized. This way, now whenever you launch the game using Swiss, the correct VMC will automatically mount for it. Now, while transferring your files initially will be a bit cumbersome, especially if you have a lot of save files for different games, it'll totally be worth it in the end to have everything organized with each game having its own dedicated VMC. I've honestly really been enjoying using the MCP GC and think it is absolutely worth picking up if you're a Gamecube fan, and especially if you're a Swiss user. From my understanding, we may see more incredible features pop up as the MCP GC further integrates with Swiss. Now, like I said earlier, the version that I have is still on the beta firmware, but it works seamlessly with the GC loader as well as Picoboot. However, if you are using Picoboot, there is a bit of a bug due to how quickly it loads Swiss, which does not give the MCP GC enough time to initiate. Therefore, Game ID will not function on the initial boot of the Gamecube. So the way around this is to load Swiss again from the main menu as shown. Once Swiss loads again, you should be good to go and Game ID should fully function. Doing this will sometimes cause the system to freeze, but all you need to do is turn the console off and then on again, and it should eventually work. I'm confident that this will be fixed eventually through a firmware update or by the time the product launches. Regardless, the MCP GC is an incredible product with a ton of potential, and I think it really does live up to the standard set by its predecessor. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this early look at the MemCard Pro GC. You can pre-order it now at 8-Bit Mods or other great retailers like Castlemania Games, and should begin shipping in early February. I'll have links in the video description to where you can pick yours up. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday.